Thank you very much. This is a very important question. I'm not looking at it from a religious point of view. I'm looking at it from a freedom of choice and liberty. That is the thing that I'm looking at it from. We can't insert religion in our public life. Religion is very private. I use my religion or I practice my religion at home, at my worship place, but once I step from my home or my place of worship, it is spirituality that becomes among us. The spirituality is the public atmosphere for all of us. Spirituality means that the purity of the heart from earthly materialistic desires. This includes also sexual desires also. And we have to put this into this frame of spirituality. When we look at it from a spirituality, we can decrease the rates. So, but anyhow, in terms of abortion, I am for the freedom and for the liberty of the person to choose what you want to do. It is something between her and their physician. I will not force anyone to do anything against their desire. So I am for freedom of choice. I will not agree on limiting abortion at all. Thank you.
Mr. Bluen.
Last fall, when Suzanne and I were on vacation, we received a questionnaire from a reporter about 8 different scenarios, what-if scenarios on abortion. We decided, if I don't find some way to say what I'm trying to say, this will become like rabbits. I'll answer 8 today, there'll be 18 tomorrow, 36 the next day. They'll never end this. We spent 4 days poring over the statement that I put on my website in early December. And it basically says this. I believe in the sanctity of life. To the very core of my being. I also believe that laws need to be acceptable and enforceable in society. That gives me 2 choices. I can filter windows, or I can try to make a difference. And I choose to try to make a difference by working on causes, by increasing choices for women, so that they, with many choices, will move toward fewer abortions. You do that by substantially increasing efforts in prevention. You do it by substantially increasing educational efforts, adoption opportunities, prenatal and postnatal health. You do everything you can to eradicate domestic abuse and child abuse, and you break through every economic and educational barrier that exists. And you create the kind of opportunity for women without desperation enhancements actually have better choices. Now, what does that say? That says I will protect current law absolutely, because I want to work on the other side. And that means I will put current law back in the place of its in to be exactly as it's currently written. No more, no less.
Thank you. Mr. Culver.
Again, I think it's very important for elected officials, for candidates seeking office, to be consistent. I think people are not always as troubled by a position that you take, but they're often more troubled when you flip and you flop and you try to get every side of the issue. And this is a case and an issue where Mike Bluen and I differ. I will veto any attempt to infringe upon a woman's right to make her health care decisions as governor of this state. I think that's important for people to know exactly where you stand. Unfortunately, when Mike Bluen was a member of Congress in the 1970s, he sponsored 2 constitutional amendments to ban abortion even in the cases of rape and incest, which puts him clearly out of the mainstream. And now, as a candidate for the Democratic nomination of governor, you have seen what I believe is an election year conversion. And you just can't have it both ways on this important issue or any other issue when you need to be straight and forward with the voters of Iowa. And I think we are all troubled by what happened in South Dakota. It's not only happening in South Dakota, but it's happening in 10 or 12 other legislatures across the country. The new Supreme Court and the makeup of that Supreme Court I think trouble Iowans, again, because there is a real concern about the future of Roe versus Wade. So unequivocally, this is one issue where I would not only veto, but I would fight the legislature so that they wouldn't get anything to my desk that would infringe upon a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. And I might add that Patty Judge, my running mate, also feels the same way. We are a ticket that believes in women and their rights, and we will fight to protect those rights in a Culver Judge administration.
Mr. Fallon.
Thank you very much. I would point out that there are many reasons why I feel I'm the best candidate to beat Jim Nussle, and one is that I'm not afraid of religion, faith, and values. In fact, as I mentioned, I was a religion major in college, and I believe this is a moral issue. The death penalty is a moral issue, but so are the policies that hurt the poor. Policies that hurt the poor are immoral. Policies that attack our environment are immoral. Policies that deny health care are immoral. And my position on this issue is, I think it's immoral for the government to tell a woman what she can and can't do with her own personal health care decisions. I have a record that's 100% when it comes to choice, and for the record, I know Chet, I believe that he's very firmly committed to the same position, but his running mate has an 0 for 3 record on this when she was in the state senate. That's important to point out. My record is 100%. What I've done proactively in the legislature is this. I feel it's really important to try to build some dialogue on this issue. It's been a polarizing debate for over 30 years. What I did was bring together some pro-life legislators and say, look, what can we do to help push this issue along in a way we all agree? And what we could agree to is we put together a task force, and we had all different perspectives on this issue at the same table. It may have been the only time that NARAL and the Iowa Right to Life Committee sat at the same table. But we came up with a list of proposals that everyone agreed could help reduce the incident of unwanted pregnancy. And that to me was very encouraging. What I would do with my leadership position as governor would be to get back to that dialogue and try to find common ground. What can we agree on that helps reduce the incidence of abortion? That is key, I think. And again, it's going to take some leadership, but I've got some track record on that as well. Thank you.
Next question is from Drew Larson. The order of answers will be Mr. Lewin, Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Fallon, and Mr.
Take 30 seconds to a minute and a half to go back. Check, there you go again. First, you accuse me of saying something different than what I said a month ago, and now you're accusing me of, now that I've clarified it,
Did you sponsor the amendment?
Excuse me, this is my time. The 70s were very different today. Very, very different. The atmosphere politically. I do things differently today than I did then. I would have put myself in a very different situation today, as I've explained. The 90s must have been different too. This Patty voted 7 times for positions that are contrary to what you both are saying is your joint position today. I think that's part of her growing process. I don't criticize her for it. She's found a different way of approaching it. I have too. As life passes, you're not quite the same person you were in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. As life goes on, you find ways of dealing with issues in different contexts. Now, how do we deal with the exodus of women? Every time you talk to them, they tell us 3 things over and over. Give us an educational system that will produce the kind of outcomes that we want for our lives. Create the kind of opportunities for us to live out those educational interests professions that will provide not only our interest level, but an income at some level sufficient enough to enjoy what Iowa has to offer, and create the quality communities that are fun to live in, with a seat at the table for us to help define what this community is about. We've begun all that, but the opposite phrase is begun. It's it's going to take us 20 years to transition this economy, our educational system, and our communities. We can't stop now, declare victory, and move on. We've got to dig our feet in and make this change for ourselves and our country.
Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a very, very important question, as a matter of fact. And what I'm going to do, just like what I have been saying, you will be in control. The system I'm putting together empowers the people to make decisions and take action. As I said, you will be in control of the planning, you will be in control of the implementation, you will be in control of corrective action as well as management review. At the end of the year, we will come together and we will see what we did and we can improve, because the system has a continuous improvement in it. So we can upgrade, or we can put our objective a little higher. Instead of reaching the national average that is ranking 32nd, we can go high. Ranking 20, we can go high to maybe rank 15 or 16 until we become number 1. Because we have in Iowa, we have the highest standard of work ethics. If you go anywhere in the nation, you say if you are from Iowa, people love to hire you, because people know that we don't quit until the work is done. So what I'm going to do, I will empower the young people. I will give them opportunity to work and work in this system, to become leaders. And they're going to continue to work here. Give them opportunity and also give them jobs. Money is not everything. Look at me, I'm here sitting. There is 1.2 million, 0.8 million, 0.3 million here. I spend only $4,000 in my campaign. Not even 4,000. I still have some money in the bank. So money is not everything. Give the people an opportunity and give them the power. This is what I'm going to do. And invention. I'm talking about invention, social justice. I'm talking about responsibility. That's very, very important. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fallon.
Well, I'm an equal opportunity critic, so I'm going to use a few of my seconds to defend Chet here. The legislature shot down a requirement to track job growth in the Values Fund. That opposition to that amendment was supported by the agency that Mike was directing. The legislature also, as Chet pointed out, shot down efforts to stiffen clawback provisions. And even now, the Department of Economic Development won't answer my questions about companies that have failed. They're not called failed in the report, they're called not proceeding. If that isn't a euphemism for failed, I don't know what it is. Unfortunately, the Department of Economic Development has become a lapdog, not a watchdog, when it comes to the Values Fund. Now, talking about quality of life, because I think that's what we're getting to. What do we do to create the kind of vibrant, exciting communities that young people and others want to stay in? Back in 1998, I helped found a group called 1,000 Friends of Iowa. And I've done a lot of work in Ames to try to prevent a mall from being built outside of town, because that would denigrate the quality of life in this community. That has to be critical. It's even far more important, I think, to assure that we have great communities than to be thinking about how we're going to give money to a handful of companies. To me, and I've talked to so many people who say they want a place that has an exciting music scene. And as a musician, that is my profession, by the way. If I've got to go back and get honest work, it'll be as a musician. And I was 46. We are 46th in the nation in terms of support for culture and the arts. That will change under my leadership. And I think that change will be very positive to attracting young people and retaining young people in Iowa. Let's take, when it comes to your idea for employment, there may be some companies you want to work for, but maybe you've got an idea that you want to help create, you want to help move into a job, into a business. Right now, we don't have the kind of support that can really make that happen for you. I'd like to see us do more to help facilitate the movement from a creative idea to an actual viable economic opportunity.
Mr. Colbert.
I don't think there's anything wrong with people changing their minds on tough political issues. However, I think people are troubled when you seem to have election year conversions or your position changes depending on who's paying your salary. For example, as a member of the Des Moines Chamber of Commerce, you were quoted on the front page of the Register business section saying you didn't have a position on the minimum wage. You said that the minimum wage as the chamber president was meaningless and irrelevant. And now, as a Democratic candidate for governor, you're supporting an increase in the minimum wage, something that certainly all Democratic candidates running for governor support. So I think coupled with your track record on the choice question over the last 20 to 30 years and a pattern here that we've seen, your position tends to change depending on who's paying your salary, what job you're doing, and whether or not you're running for governor. With respect to brain drain, I believe we have to really stand up and fight for our young people in this state. I am committed to young people. I've been a teacher, I've been a coach, I've been a mentor, I volunteered at the YMCA, I tutored kids, young people at my church. That's one of the things that really attracts me to this race for governor. We're 50th in the nation in brain drain. That should concern all of us. Here are a couple of things that we need to do. Number one, let's make college more affordable, not only by increasing the appropriations at the legislature to our state universities and colleges, but let's allow high school students to earn up to 2 years of credit while they're still in high school, so they'll be much more likely to go on to an Iowa community college or a four-year institution. Let's create the incredible opportunities and job opportunities, high-tech jobs related to leading the nation in alternative energy and renewable energy. Let's create in Iowa the Silicon Valley of the Midwest, and we will bring into this state millions of dollars, tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of $1 million in private investment, in venture capital money, and create these jobs that will attract and retain the best and brightest young people coming out of our universities and colleges in the state.
Mr. McDowell has the next question. The order of answers will be Mr. Bluen, Mr. Colbert, Mr. Fallon, and Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you. You know, be careful, Jeff, when you start averting money in certain occupations, and then leave off the fact that you were a lobbyist for 2 years for IPP and I was a national strip mine company that wanted access to the land in Iowa. You had a right to earn a living any way you wanted, and I don't argue with you for having that right, but it was part of your agenda too, and I'm not going to accuse you of doing anything improper. Now, in regard to the role of the state in rural consolidation, you mentioned both schools and cities. The state has a role. The state has helped affect voluntary consolidation in a lot of countries over the last 2 decades, and has found ways to bring that about without putting a gun to the school district's hands. Iowans don't force people. We want none of us like to sit back, open wide, and say hi. But we're incredibly creative people if given the opportunity, both in terms of our school systems and dealing with our local governments. We've got 950 towns in Iowa, every one of whom started as a shopping center for a farm community that no longer exists in numbers large enough to sustain that way of life. Yet we treat them as if they shall do with all of our laws and some constitutional provisions. We need to open that up and give those communities the freedom, the flexibility, so that they can be creative and allow them to find a new way to be what it is they want to be. I would trust Iowans to make that happen with Iowa government. It's out of the way enough to let them do.
Thank you. Mr. Colbert.
Nearly 20 years ago, as a recent graduate from college, I did spend a couple of years working at the Capitol for a lobbyist, and it was a requirement of my job to register, or I wouldn't have been able to hold the job. So I never lobbied for any of the clients that Mike suggested. But I did learn a great deal about state government at that time. And when we're talking about lobbying, again, as the chamber president in Des Moines, your paid lobbyist was actually registered against things like project labor agreements, fighting project labor agreements. Your paid lobbyist up on the Hill was promoting right to work in this state and wanting to, through economic development brochures and on the economic development webpage, brag about the fact that we are a right to work state. And at the same time, your paid lobbyist, when you were at the chamber, didn't take a position on whether or not we should increase the minimum wage when it was being debated. That was just in the last few years, not nearly 20 years ago, when I was up on the Hill working for, I might add, a terrific Democrat, Ed Campbell, who was our state party chairman and a candidate for governor. We need, in terms of school districts, all 365 school districts and the kids in each of those districts, I believe, first and foremost, need equal access to quality education. We need to really level the playing field in our urban districts and our rural districts and give every young Iowan the same type of opportunities. And one example of that is, again, in Des Moines Public Schools, you can earn as much as 2 years of college credit while you're still in high school. That's not the case in many rural school districts. We don't offer those same types of opportunities to Iowa kids. We need to level the playing field and give these school districts the resources they need to provide a quality education. And one way we can start by doing that is 6% allowable growth at the legislature, an increase in the allowable growth that will hopefully will be done the next 2 weeks before they adjourn.
Thank you.
Mr. Fallon.
Thank you very much. Let me just insert a comment here. I hope that throughout this campaign that those of us running for the Democratic nomination can avoid negative comments, personal attacks. And innuendo is part of that. Now, I have no trouble disagreeing with Chet on the death penalty or Mike on the values fund. Let's keep it on issues, but I really think we're going to do ourselves a disservice and Jim Nussle a service if we stoop to the level of negative campaigning. Now, and actually, just as a response to that further, too, Mike and I will be cooperating on an event next week to a good idea that Mike had to try to raise some funds for soup kitchens to highlight Jim Nussle's terrible track record of votes against our seniors, our environment, and whatnot. So I hope that we will find more opportunities as Democrats to show common ground where we have it. And in the issue of school consolidation, as I said earlier, I believe very strongly in local control. And unfortunately, I do think the state has not been benign in this matter. I think the state has actually helped put the gun to people's heads, Mike. And I think many school districts have felt they had no option but to close or to merge. I do want to see us do what we can to encourage consolidation among administrative functions. And if a school district wants to merge with another, as happened in Davis County years ago, as happened in Dallas Center and Grimes more recently, that's fine. But I think the state should be very, very cautious not to put a gun to the schools' heads and take away funding, make certain requirements. I think schools need to be able to use the internet more frequently, the fiber optic network, find ways, again, of reducing costs, increasing curricula opportunities, maybe without increasing additional costs in the classroom. And I think we can help them do that without forcing them into a mode where they have to consolidate. Thank you.
Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you very much. In answering this question, yes, the state has a role in every functions of the state, including rural areas and so on, either education or health care or law enforcement. The state has a role. But the most important thing is that the state also work with the community, work with the people, so that the solution will be acceptable for the people, and also we have a common ground all together to work with. As I agree with the people that said don't put a gun to the local community. I agree with that. But we have to work together. But also we have to sacrifice, everyone has to sacrifice a little and look for the interest of the whole state. I am talking about even the whole nation. Because when we put the interests of America above all interests, what is good for America is good for Iowa and good for every one of us. So we have to come from this perspective that we need to put the interest of the nation on the top and the interest of the kids, the children. This is our objective, the education. Because some people try to protect their turf no matter what, and that's wrong. So we have to come to a consensus together. Everyone sacrifice a little, we have an agreement, and we need to work together. We don't need to fight each other. So what I'm talking also about in my brochure, that we have to work together and move forward together. Pool our resources and our people and move forward, not moving against each other. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. I have promised the organizers of this event and the audience that they would have a few moments for questions. And that time we can do closing statements. The order of those statements as it stands now would be Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Fallon, Mr. Culver, and Mr.
Is this a closing statement?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Diem. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you very much for coming. It's a great opportunity for every one of us, all the candidates. We are here to serve you. I want to work for you. And as I said, we're going to work this systematically, objectively, and scientifically. I speak the language of science, and science means that true and real, and you reach results. It is not politics. Politics, you get promises, end by excuses. And you, most important, you will be in control. As I said, that's a guaranteed contract that we're going to reach our objectives. And you have the power to come to the office of the governor and question him. No one else, any candidate, no one else said that you're going to have the power in your hand to come and question the governor. That's very, very important. As I said, everyone, no matter whether you are Democrat, Republican, or independent, you want this $8,000 to come to your family. That is an extra income above everything else, just like a bonus at the end of the year. So when people know about my programs, they're going to vote for Saal Mohammed, even in the general election, especially in the general election in November. No one is going to vote for... Mike doesn't agree with me on that. I said too many times, no one is going to vote for Jim Nasser. But he said, you can say no one. But anyhow, as I said, you are in control. That is a guaranteed contract for you. Let us transform our state to a higher, get everyone to a higher level of income and standard of living. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. You've been a great audience. I appreciate the opportunity to dialogue with you. I may in some ways be an unlikely candidate for governor because I'm not independently wealthy. I live on a very modest income in one of Iowa's poorest neighborhoods. And for a long time I lived very, very, very low income and experienced all the challenges of poverty, including a lack of health insurance. But I believe that's probably a very good background to have as I move forward, hopefully in my next mission to serve the state as governor. I believe too often politics becomes out of touch with people's needs. And all I have done for the past 14 years is fight for people, often one-on-one, people who come to me with a problem they have with the human services system or the criminal justice system or a land use problem. I've taken everybody's problems seriously. I've tried to do what I can to help. In many cases, I have helped. I've got a track record, not just a voting record, but a record of commitment to service, to helping people. And I believe very strongly that that's a good place to be as a candidate for governor. Unfortunately, most people who run for higher office are either very wealthy themselves or they rely on lots of money from those who are very wealthy. As a matter of principle, I've never taken a penny from a PAC or a paid lobbyist or any special interest or any big donor, and I maintain that commitment in my campaign for governor. I believe, again, that's a very, very good position to be in because you know for a fact that I am not for sale. Too many politicians get involved, they get caught up in the big money game, they end up being bought and paid for, and unfortunately we get policies that reflect the fact that they're bought and paid for. That unfortunately is happening more and more in state government in Iowa. We need to change that. A governor who has a commitment to the people first and foremost, can do that. And again, one thing I've got going for me too is a great track record in contrast to what Jim Nussle stands for. Tom Harkin is a great example of an Iowa Democrat who beats Republican congressmen left and right. He talks about trickle-down economics and how wrong it is. He talks about the poor. He talks about fighting for working people. That's what I do. I believe I can beat Jim Nussle, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
I believe that the campaign should be about the future, and that Iowans deserve to know exactly what we plan to do as governor of the state. I also believe that it's important, especially in a Democratic primary or a primary of any kind, for you all to look very closely at our records. And I think it's important to ask, what have we done with our lives, with our professional life, with our public life? What do we believe in as Democrats? Are we going to stand up for the democratic values that we all hold so near and dear? And what are we willing to fight for as governor? So I've enjoyed this opportunity tonight to have a healthy discussion and a debate, and to look at contrasts and similarities between all of us seeking your vote on June 6th and the Democratic nomination. And I think this is very important. Might not be always real comfortable for everyone, but it's important for you to really know what we've done in the past and what we'll fight for in the future. I believe that we have a lot of challenges in this state. That's actually one of the things that really attracts me to this race for governor. But I have an even greater faith in Iowa's promise. I have an even greater faith in you, in the people. I know that by building on our strengths in education and agriculture and manufacturing, we can create good jobs in every corner of this state. I know that we can get health care coverage for 300,000 Iowans that don't have it. I know that we can improve higher education and get back to being #1 in the nation in terms of excellence in education. I also believe in the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, who said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Well, I'm a proud progressive Democrat, and I'm a proud fifth-generation Iowan who believes that Iowa's future is unlimited. And I ask you here tonight to join the Culver Judge ticket, to join us. We're the winning ticket. We're going to win in June, win in November, and be ready to govern in January of 2007. And I ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for being here. And Ed, I was defeated in 1978 in my re-election for Congress because I assumed people would see the truth in negative campaigning, and I chose not to respond. I'm not going to make that mistake again. When I get hit in the face, I'm going to set the record straight every time, and if someone else wants to measure that negatively, I can't help that. All I know is I know who I am, and I know what I am capable of being and what I'm capable of doing. 80% of the Democrats in the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate have endorsed my campaign. The other 20% haven't endorsed anyone. Over 6 county elected officials have endorsed my campaign. Tom Miller, the Attorney General of the state of Iowa, the only statewide office holder who has chosen to take a position in this campaign, has endorsed my campaign. The lion's share of organized labor have endorsed my campaign. A week and a half ago, it was culminated with the unanimous endorsement of the Iowa Federation of Labor's Hope Council. They don't seem to have any problem with my positions on issues affecting working men and women in Iowa. I want to move this state forward. I want to do it in a way that unifies and not divides. And they, the collective endorsers, see that as well. They believe that I can not only get elected, but that I can govern, and I can do it in a way that enhances life for 3 million people who call Iowa home. I believe it as well, or I wouldn't be standing up here tonight asking for your support. I wish very much to have every one of you engage in the next 9 weeks worth of campaigning and make an educated, intelligent decision as to which one of us can represent you in the fall election. I believe it's me. I ask for your vote in this spring with your help throughout the summer and fall.
We'd like to thank all the candidates for honoring our rules and being so cooperative and frank with us this evening. We'll just give them a round of applause before we get to the questions. At this point, we will entertain questions from the audience. Question for all the candidates?
I'll be happy to start. And congratulations on your well-deserved recognition as Teacher of the Year. I am a big fan of John Kennedy's, and he had great vision. He had big ideas. He had bold initiatives, and that was one of the things that attracted people to President Kennedy. And I remember the speech, I've read about the speech that he gave at Texas A&M when he said that he wants the United States of America to send the first person to the moon. A lot of people didn't believe that we could do that, but he made it happen. He made Americans believe in that dream, in that idea, and in that worthy goal. I do believe that Iowa is sitting on top of a gold mine of opportunity. I believe that we can and we will become the first energy independent state. We have great opportunities here between wind and solar and biomass and ethanol and biodiesel. And Iowa is uniquely positioned to lead the nation in this exciting effort. But we have to move quickly, and we have to put big ideas on the table. And I have unveiled a very detailed energy plan that will allow us to move. It would require an ethanol mandate. We've been waiting too long at the legislature. The petroleum marketers, the special interests have stopped our efforts to expand the opportunities related to biodiesel and ethanol, and it's time for Iowa to get behind this idea and position us to become the first state in the nation to say enough to the big oil companies, and we're no longer going to be dependent on foreign overpriced oil.
I'd like to suggest something and see if the other three would agree with me. Since there is such a long line of questioners, why don't we each take 30 seconds?
I agree.
Would that be okay with everyone?
I was just going to suggest something.
Okay. Can my 30 seconds start now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I've served on the Environmental Protection Committee for all of my 14 years in the legislature. That issues relating to the environment are critical to me. Renewable fuels are important. We have to make sure that the renewable fuels industry is controlled by Iowans and not Mid-American Energy and Florida Power and Light. Regulating corporate hog confinements and improving water quality is critical for me. I have a track record on that. Thank you.
The number one alternative energy is conservation. We can save huge amounts of energy if we find ways to stop using it as much in terms of our homes, our workplace, our vehicles, and so on. And we're just hitting the tip of an iceberg. Ethanol has a few generations, perhaps. It's more than corn. It's more than soybeans and biodiesel. It's switchgrass, it's prairie grass, it's alternatives we haven't even thought about yet that have very strong conservation options.
Also, can I answer this question? Thank you. I am the one who also is carrying the banner for President Kennedy. As I said about Henry Wallace, in terms of planning for 5,000 years, you really can't plan for 5,000 years. I'm pretty sure that science is going to develop new kind of energy sources and so on. I'm optimistic about the future. Through innovation, social justice, and responsibility, I think we're going to achieve our goals. Thank you.
Next question.
I vote for anybody in this room over here.
Sal? Well, all right. You're talking not just academics, but I went to school in my first 2 years were at a college in Vermont. I finished up at Drake, and Drake was wonderful. And what was wonderful about Drake is I got a program that allowed me to craft my major without having to go through a predetermined mold. That was exciting. But probably the most memorable thing for me was living in the mountains of Vermont, skiing about 4 or 5 hours a day, and fitting my studies in around the skiing.
Well, the most fun for me really was hanging around. We were a group of students come together in downtown Cairo, and we really have a good time, especially in Thursday. The weekend is here is Friday, so just like here, Friday is the end of the week and Saturday is the weekend. So over there, vacation is Friday, so we hang together on Thursday evening downtown Cairo. It was fun.
College in Dubuque. The only town in America with a head on it. It's home, with a beard. We would have weekend bridge marathons. It would start Friday night and end as late as you could possibly go on Sunday, with occasional break for showers. We didn't do it a lot because you weren't real good on Monday and Tuesday, but they were fun times. You couldn't do that today if your life depended on it.
Couple things quickly. I really enjoyed my experience at Drake, where I received a master's in teaching, working with most of the people that I went to the master's program with. Were going back to school for the second time. So we had a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie. We worked hard, and we were all really passionate about our commitment to education. We couldn't wait to get back in the classroom. And then in undergraduate, I was fortunate enough to have a full athletic scholarship. And to this day, enjoy great friendships and relationships with the member of the football team that I played with, and really bonded and had a lot of fun and worked hard, certainly, on the practice field and on the athletic field, and those experiences I will cherish.
Thank you. Next question.
I wish in 30 seconds I could give you a sense of that demographic problem in Iowa. It's a huge crisis. It's the same crisis that almost every state faces in every industrialized country. We need to find ways to attract people with diversity, not just by knowledge, but by welcoming and embracing diversity across the board. And we're serious problem as a trend. It requires change, it requires adapting, it requires embracing differences as quickly as we can. A state that is 100 years to the Germans and Irish concerned. It's not going to be easy, but we have to use the office of the governor to promote it as solemnly as we do.
A couple things. I was really proud of the work that I did at Hoover High School when I taught there for 3 years. Half of my day I spent with young people that were learning English as a second language. And I met young people from all over the world. We had about 20 different languages that were spoken in the building. I would not have signed English only, and that was a mistake. And I think we need to correct that mistake here in Iowa. It just sends the wrong message. When it comes to the GLBT community, I would do three things. One, I would add sexual orientation to the Civil Rights Act. Number two, we would pass rapidly the Employment Non-Discrimination Act through the legislature. And number three, we would enact the proposals made from the task force related to bullying in the schools. We have a problem of bullying and intimidation in the classrooms across the state. We need to step up to the plate and take the task force recommendations, and I'll have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to bullying or intimidating or discriminating against people in this state, especially gay and lesbian individuals.
I'm a strong supporter of the GLBT community. I would support same-gender marriage, and I have supported that. I encourage you to go to my website and look at my statement against the proposed ban on same-sex marriage. And if you'd like to talk about that after this, I guess we're going to be meeting at the stomping grounds at 303 Welch Ave. When it comes to immigration issues, I get outraged when people use the immigrant community as a punching bag to take out our aggressions on those who are weaker than us. And most recently, 2 weeks ago, I gave a very strong speech against that ridiculous bill that Mr. Dix wants that would prevent banks from loaning money to illegal immigrants, which they're not doing anyhow. Thank you.
I want just to make a small comment. The people in Iowa are very kind and very generous. I ran for Congress and I'm running for governor now. And I campaign in the street with a sign, Sal Muhammad for governor. And people have been very kind to me. In summer, people stop by and offer me cold drinks and so on. So the people in Iowa are very good people, generous and kind. It just need a leadership from the office of the governor, and this is what I'm going to do. In terms of the issue of the other issue you talked about, I don't know the names of it, but I'm for freedom of expression for everyone and for liberty for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the candidates to keep their answers as short as possible. We have a long line and a short amount of time.
As far as I know, I'm the only candidate that has demonstrated support outside of his party, and maybe others are doing that, and I would commend all of us for doing that, but 20% of the strongest supporters that I have are not Democrats. They're Republicans and independents, and I think the reason is most Iowans just want somebody who's going to fight for them. They want a candidate who wants to see government about public service, not about creating a bureaucracy that puts hoops and hurdles in front of people. Most Iowans want to get big money out of politics, and they want to see us do more for the basic services that we depend on. So I'm real excited about the fact that a big chunk of my base is not your standard Democratic activist. That, to me, bodes well for a run against Jim Nussle next fall.
I just want to add quickly that I think electability does matter. I've been fortunate to have won 69 counties in this state in 2002 by 106,000 votes. So I have been able to reach across the aisle to get support from Republicans and independents. Patty Judge has also won 2 statewide elections, and we've won 70 Iowa counties. So we can win in every corner of the state, and that's important in a state that is very divided right now politically, and in a state where John Kerry won 32 counties in 2004.
Next question.
I'll take 5.
I know you can't serve on political committees because those are made up of parties. But the boards and commissions, in some instances, like a substantial percentage of membership of boards and commissions in 25 Governor are filled with folks from a full-party category. And I would just like to submit your request that you'll find that it can be ignored. We talked about about a primary. I like the Wisconsin system, open primary. You pick the ballot of the party, it allows independents to participate without having to register with the party. It allows Democrats to occasionally participate in another primary when they don't have one in Wisconsin on their own. So I think it's very good.
I've got a strong independent streak in me, as many of you know, and I've always been very empathetic with independents. I've offered legislation to allow for instant runoff voting, which would help those of an independent bent as well. But whatever I could do to help assure that there's balance, that it's not just partisan balance, that it also includes the independent community, I would definitely support any initiative that might help in that capacity.
We need to be progressive reformers, all of us as Democrats. When I ran for Congress, I was supported by the progressive reformers, which get me 16%. The progressive Democrats can carry the party. We all has to be progressive Democrats. And once we get a progressive Democrat nominated, he will bring the independent to the system.
I want to thank all the candidates for coming. There wouldn't have been a forum without you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope tonight was valuable in stimulating political discussion and interaction. Please go forth and spread the debate. Have a good night. Thank you for coming.